ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीमद्भागवतम कैंटो 7 चैप्टर 7 वर्स 35। यदा ग्रहग्रस्त इव क्वचिद् सति आक्रन्दते ध्यायति वन्दते जनं मुहुश्वसं वक्ति हरे जगत्पते नारायणेत्यत आत्ममतिर्गतः प्रपः। ग्रहग्रस्त, haunted by a ghost. Okay. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation. He offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. O my Lord, O Master of the universe. So here there's discussion about ecstasies. So when one is situated in devotional service, so he is the controller of his senses. So he's liberated, and then he hears of the qualities of the Lord's incarnations, and his hair stands on end, tears flow from his eyes, voice falters. Sometimes he openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation. He becomes like a person haunted by a ghost. He laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation and he offers respect to every living entity, considering everyone to be a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman. When one chants the holy name of the Lord in ecstasy, not caring for outward social conventions, it is to be understood that he is Atmamati. In other words, his consciousness is turned toward the Supreme Person of Godhead. So this is a very, very high platform of devotion. So anyway, to progress on this path, first is Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Hobe Man. Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Hobe Man. So we have to give up this Vishaya, material attachments. Otherwise, there's no chance that we can progress on this path. And this is the path that all pure devotees take. Of course, it's may or may not display all this in public, right? Because otherwise, people will, it might lead to sahajiya attitude. Others might just try to do the same thing, right? So they might not openly display this in public, but every pure devotee on his path to perfection will actually experience these emotions. We know our acharyas praying, "Oh Krishna, oh Radha, where are you? Oh Lalita, where are you? Are you near the Yamuna? Are you near the Govardhan?" So that is even higher level, which is actually Vipralambha, devotion in separation. But here, devotees experiencing the emotions of actually being in contact with Krishna. So, and if there is any distress or unhappiness displayed, that is because of losing Krishna's connection. And generally, the devotees in this stage, like I said, we start off with becoming Vishaya, giving up all material attraction, and then actually they even become careless to social etiquette also. They don't care. But we should not imitate this. This is a this is a, you know, it's a gradual progress. We should reach there, and which is the reason we cannot remain in anartha nivritti all our life. We have to somehow push ourselves. So we need determination for that. We need to make sankalpa. We need to put some goals and determinedly try to approach those goals. Mm, Just like people do in their material life, they have certain goals to achieve, etc., etc. So we need to move on that path, and only by determination can it happen. And that is the effort of the devotee that Krishna is looking out for, right? When we talk about Damodar Lila, we say effort of that determination to move forward, right? So, so it's very important that we understand this. Sometimes we are just satisfied with whatever stage we are in, but always we have to remember that there is a long way to go. There's a long way to go. We are just still in just right now. It doesn't matter how many years we've been in ISKCON. That's not important. What is important is how much attachment we have developed, how much attraction we have developed to Krishna. Actually, one of the things that Rupa Goswami says is that, one of the things that can actually help devotees is deity worship, worshipping Radha and Krishna, deity. That can be a very powerful methodology, because we will develop attachment to the deities. So, which is also, but if we have to do it with the right consciousness. It's not that if we don't do deity worship, it's not that we won't get attracted or attached to Krishna, but it's a powerful process. Like I keep saying that our sampradaya is actually Bhagavata Dharma Sampradaya. Bhagavata, we are taking the root of Bhagavata Dharma, not Pancharatriki. Right? Pancharatriki is also there to support, um, especially those who are not able to remain fixed using Bhagavata Dharma. Bhagavata Dharma is Shravanam Kirtanam. Just by Shravanam Kirtanam, actually one can reach all these stages. But if somebody does nice deity worship, that also can very nicely help. Okay. So, yeah. So we have to just remember that there are higher stages of devotion. And what happened to my internet? Higher stages of progress, and we need to be determined to do that, to go there, to move, to make progress. Okay. Tada puman mukta samasta bandhanas tadbhava bhavanukrita sayakriti nirdagdha bijanushayo mahiyasa bhakti prayogena sametyadhokshajam. Internet is acting up. Just 1 second. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination, because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes. And because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Now, note this. Now, here it's not daily, it's constantly thinking of the Lord's pastimes. What is constantly thinking of the Lord's pastimes? When we are chanting, and this is called Smarana Dasha. When we are chanting, then automatically Lord's form, Lord's qualities, Lord's pastimes, everything will automatically come, automatically. And then the devotee is constantly thinking of the Lord's pastimes. And then what happens? Body, everything is spiritualized completely. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burned to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Shelter means he will actually achieve Krishna. When a devotee is completely purified, he becomes Anya Vilashita Shunya. In other words, all of his material desires become zero, being burned to ashes, and he exists either as the Lord's servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. Because one thinks constantly in this way, one's present material body and mind are fully spiritualized, and the needs of one's material body completely vanish from one's existence. See, this is the sign of progress, that we are not even conscious about our bodily needs, eating, sleeping, etc. So for this, one has to be completely purified. That is the beginning. All of his material desires become zero, being burned to ashes, and he exists only in relationship with the Lord, whatever his relationship is. And then one becomes, body and mind becomes spiritualized, so no need of bodily requirements. An iron rod put into a fire becomes warmer and warmer, and when it is red hot, it is no longer an iron rod but fire. Very, very amazing example. And when you put an iron rod into fire, eventually it becomes so hot, it's actually no longer iron, it actually becomes fire. Similarly, when a devotee constantly engages in devotional service and thinks of the Lord in his original Krishna consciousness, he no longer has any material activities, for his body is pure, spiritualized. Advancement in Krishna consciousness is very powerful. And therefore, even during this life, such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. This transcendental ecstatic existence of a devotee was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a transcendental ecstatic existence, meaning always in ecstasy, spiritual ecstasy. Srila Madhvacharya writes, the ecstatic condition of devotional service was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who sometimes danced, sometimes cried, sometimes sang, sometimes remained silent, sometimes chanted the holy name of the Lord. That is perfect spiritual existence. Now, whatever these emotions are being shown here, he is actually in the mood of eternal relationship with the Lord. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Radharani. So he exhibited these emotions. Now somebody else might be in some other relationship with the Lord, and they will exhibit those emotions. So these are directly experiencing Krishna's presence and absence, and thereby corresponding emotions are being displayed. Natural. These are natural. For example, if somebody is a Sakha, then he will demonstrate Sakha emotions. If somebody is in Vatsalya, he demonstrates emotions of parents, and so on and so forth. Now, these are not some thing that is performed based on some knowledge. Okay, I acquired this knowledge saying that, a devotee in conjugal love expresses emotions like this, bhava like this, and so I will also. No, that is sahajiya. But this is a natural stage when one reaches, which one reaches, where these emotions are naturally displayed. Unfortunately, we are not looking forward, or we don't even, we are not like in our consciousness, these advanced stages are not in our thought process. And, we are either stuck in, material thinking or in spiritual thinking, but in terms of La Puja Pratishtha. This is what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in Vaishnava Ke. So either we are materially engrossed, which means the gross material attachment, or we have given up all that, but then we get stuck in La Puja Pratishtha with respect to spiritual life. We are trying to get some kind of benefit for ourselves, some kind of adoration that somebody has to glorify us, worship us like we are great. Oh, without you, my devotion would have not happened at all, like this. Or position. So either we are stuck materially or we are stuck in a wrong platform spiritually. Now, which is also some kind of contamination only. La Puja Pratishtha is also contamination, but it's not gross, it's subtle contamination. That's all. But it's still contamination. But actually in Vaishnava Ke, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and commentary by Sonis Jaipatak Maharaj just, as, everybody should read this book. I mean, I've told this multiple times. Fortunately, I got the opportunity to translate this book into Kannada, and and this is one of the advantages of doing services like this. We'll keep reading the same thing again and again and again and again and again, because we are reviewing, we translate, then 2 times, 3 times, 4 times we review the content. So what happens? We are going over the same text again and again. So it will have its impact. So this La Puja Pratishtha is our next barrier. First barrier is material attachment, attraction. Second barrier is La Puja Pratishtha. When we overcome all that, then we are actually in a completely purified state. Then we are actually in Anya Bilashita Shunya. Then only we can think of making progress. This is actual liberation. This is actual liberation. Nishta. Stage of Nishta. When all the anarthas have gone. But somehow, devotees get stuck in small, small situations of their own. And we don't make progress. Get stuck. But just, at least whenever I read verses like this, it really pricks me. We are far from this. Adokshajaalambamiha shubhatmanah sharirina samsriti chakrashat satanam tad brahma nirvana sukham vidurbudhas tato bhajadvam hridaye hridishwaram. The real problem of life is repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Person of God. This is literally touch. Literally touch. In other words, by transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement. Constant, again. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya starts off definition of Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. First is daily. Read Bhagavatam daily. Then read Bhagavatam constantly. Chant Hare Krishna constantly. First we start with, okay, 1 round, 2 round, then initiation, minimum 16 rounds. Then chant constantly. Only when we do such activities, one is completely liberated. And like I've been highlighting, saying that if we waste our precious time in doing some material activities, even after our responsibilities are done, we are just delaying our perfection. That's all. Even by doing this also, it seems not very easy. Even by being constantly engaged in devotion also, progress seems pretty slow. Now imagine what will happen if, if we are not even constantly engaging in devotional service. We have so many material things to do. What will happen to our consciousness? How fast can we make progress? So one has to hanker for this situation of being able to do constant devotion 24/7, 365 days. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, immediately begin meditating upon and worshipping the Supreme within everyone's heart. Okay, so this is one path. For us, it is devotion. That's all, devotional service. Generally, it is understood that by merging into existence of Brahman, one becomes completely happy. The words Brahman Nirvana refer to connecting with the absolute truth, which is realized in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So Brahman Nirvana doesn't just mean Brahman, merging into Brahman. It is actually connecting with the absolute truth, yoga. One feels Brahma Sukha, spiritual happiness, by merging into impersonal Brahman, because the Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. And just imagine, the effulgence only can give us happiness. Then what is personal presence of Krishna? What can it do to us? No, amazing, right? The impersonal Brahma Jyoti itself gives us spiritual happiness, and that impersonal Brahma Jyoti is just the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. Because Krishna is Sachidananda Vigraha, even his effulgence is gives Ananda. And what to speak about his personal association? Yasya Prabha Prabhato Jagadanda Koti. Yasya Prabha, impersonal Brahman, consists of the rays of Krishna's transcendental body. Therefore, whatever transcendental bliss one feels from merging in Brahman is due to contact with Krishna. Contact with Krishna is perfect Brahma Sukha. See, this is called Paramananda. This is Brahmananda, but Brahmananda is nothing in front of Paramananda. When the mind is in touch with the impersonal Brahman, one becomes satisfied. But one must advance further to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one's remaining merged in the Brahman effulgence is not always assured. Aruhya kritrena parampadam tatapatanti adho anadrita yushmadangrayaha. Anadrita yushmadangraya. If there is no respect for the lotus feet of Krishna, then one may merge but again fall down. Of course, such Brahma Sukha undoubtedly eliminates material happiness. So, different stages of happiness. One is called material happiness. Then in material happiness also there is happiness within this earth. Then there is happiness in Swarga. And above this is happiness in merging into Brahman. So material happiness of any sort is nothing in front of Brahma Sukha. But Brahma Sukha itself is nothing in front of the happiness in personal service of Krishna. In one of the rasas. Then one automatically feels transcendental bliss, and also continuously also. Just when one becomes happy seeing the shining of the moon. One acquires natural happiness upon seeing the moon, but when one can see the Supreme Person of Godhead, one can see. When one can see, when will we see? One's transcendental happiness increases hundreds and thousands of times. As soon as one is very intimately connected with Krishna, one surely becomes free from all material contamination. This cessation of all material happiness is called nirvruti or nirvana. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, so this is Brahmananda Bhave Desha Chet Parardha Gunikritaha Naiti Bhakti Sukham Bodhehe Paramanu Tulamapi. This Brahmananda multiplied 100 trillion times. It would still not equal even an atomic fragment. Paramanu Tulam. Even one atomic fragment of the ocean of transcendental bliss felt in devotional service. Just see how much is that bliss in devotion. Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. If one advances further from Brahma Nirvana platform, one enters the stage of Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. Krishna is saying. So only then we enter a stage of devotional service, meaning pure devotional service after Mukti. That's what we just discussed. The word Adoksha Jalambanam La Adoksha Jalambham refers to keeping the mind always engaged in absolute truth. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. This is the result of deity worship. See, if actually one is doing proper deity worship, they can actually come to the stage of always remembering the Lord. By constantly engaging in the service of the Lord and thinking of his lotus feet, one is automatically freed from all material contamination. So, not just Bhagavata Vidhi, even Pancharatriki Vidhi, if somebody is doing it properly, full-time pujaris, etc., they can actually make tremendous progress if they know what they're doing, but they do it more because of, whatever their personal requirements, money, this, that, and all that. But actually, if somebody does with that, attention, love, affection for the Lord, you can make tremendous progress. Thus, the word Brahma Nirvana Sukham indicates that when one is in touch with the absolute truth, material sense gratification is completely nullified. Because it has zero value. What is this material sense gratification anyway? Something by which the senses become gratified. Right? But this is puna puna charvita charmanana. We have been chewing the chewed. We've been trying to sense gratify ourselves for lifetimes, zillions of lifetimes. Till it has not satisfied us. So why is it going to satisfy now? And it is anyway, it is in connection with this temporary material body, which is really, which is not us, and which is an illusion. This material sense gratification is an illusion. It's just some illusion that it is a happiness, but it's not. It's just like in a dream. But it's difficult because Mama Maya Duratyaya, Krishna's Maya is very, very difficult to overcome. Why Krishna's Maya has this impact on us? Because we wanted it. So we wanted it, we got into a situation, now we want to get out, but we are struggling. And some don't want to get up, or most don't want to get out. Some want to get out, but we are struggling. Then what is the way out? Mameva e prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. So we have to completely surrender to Krishna. See, and so knowledge is one aspect, surrender is the other aspect. Knowledge to know, okay, this is temporary, this is illusory, this is going to bind me here. I'm not going to get Krishna. All this is the knowledge aspect. Then, oh, no, I know all this, but still I'm not able to control myself. Krishna, please help me. Surrender to Krishna. Then we make progress. Koti prayaso sura balaka harer upasane sver hri chidravat satah swasyatmana sakhyurashesha dehinam samanyatah kim vishayopapadanaihi. My friends, the Supreme Person of Godhead in his super soul feature always exists within the cores of hearts of all living entities. Indeed, is the well-wisher and friend, and there's no difficulty in worshipping the Lord. Why then should people not engage in his devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification? It's like Prahlad is like, why? I can't understand. Kind of question. Because the person who Godhead is supreme, no one is equal to him, no one is greater than him. He's Asamordhva. If one is a devotee of the Lord is easily obtainable. Lord is compared to the sky because the sky is vast, yet within the reach of all, not only of human beings, but even of the animals. The Supreme Lord in his Paramatma feature exists as best well-wisher and friend. The Lord in his super soul feature always stays in the heart along with the living entity. Lord is so friendly that he remains within the heart so that one can always contact him. That is the reason why Krishna is there in our heart as Paramatma. And how can we do this? Simply by devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam. As soon as one hears of the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna Kirtana, one immediately comes in touch with the Lord. Our problem is we have to remain in touch. That's the challenge. A devotee immediately comes in touch with the Lord by any or all of the items of devotional service. Therefore, there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, going to hell requires great endeavor, which we are ready to do. But the easy process we are not following. If one wants to go to hell by illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, he must acquire so many things. For illicit sex, he must arrange for money for brothels. For meat eating, he must arrange for many slaughterhouses. For gambling, he must arrange for casinos and hotels. And for intoxication, he must open up many breweries. Clearly, therefore, if one wants to go to hell, he must endeavor very much. But if one wants to return home back to God, there's no difficult endeavor. This only we find this difficult. We find this going to hell endeavor easy. That is our fallen state. Actually, if you analyze properly, this requires a lot more effort than going back to Godhead. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, in any condition. Simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Madanta Gobir Vishatamta Misram. Because of inability to control senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Lord, because the Lord is always with him. By the simple method of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Lord is satisfied. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. Give me this leaf, flower, fruit, water, but with love and devotion, I will accept it. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. One can chant about the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj is advising his friends, take this path home back to Godhead without difficulty. Prabhupada also says, what is the difficulty? So, without difficulty. We should actually imagine that Prabhupada is telling us, yes, take our name. Yes, Narayan Prabhu. What is your difficulty? What is the difficulty? Nothing, Prabhupada. I'm just foolish. That will be the answer. Then Prabhupada will say, why foolish? Just hold on to my dhoti. Okay, Prabhupada, whatever you say. That's all. Simple. Conversation between us and Prabhupada. He will take us back. So we should just hold on to his instructions. That's all. Try as much as possible, sincerely. Raya kalatram pashavah sutadayo grihamahi kunjarakosha bhutayah sarvertha kama kshanabhangu bhangurayushah kshanabhangurayushah kurvanti martyasya kiyat priyam schalaha. One's riches, beautiful wife, female friends, one's sons, daughters, one's residence, one's domestic animals, treasury, economic development, sense gratification, even the lifetime in which one can enjoy all these material opulences are all certainly temporary and flickering. This word we should remember. Kshanabhangura. Kshanabhangura means gone in a moment. Since the opportunity of human life is temporary, what benefit can these material opulences give to a sensible man who has understood himself to be eternal? But we have to understand ourselves to be eternal, soul, not the body. Then what is the use of this, wasting this human life? This verse describes how the advocates of economic development are frustrated by the laws of nature. What is the actual benefit of so-called economic development? History of world has actually proved that attempts to increase economic development for bodily comfort through advancement of material civilization have done nothing to remedy the inevitability of birth, death, old age, and disease. Everyone has knowledge of huge empires throughout the history of the world, but all the societies engaged in such economic development have been frustrated by the laws of nature through periodic wars, pestilence, famine, and so on. Thus, all their attempts have been flickering and temporary. In this verse, therefore, it is said, one may be proud of possessing a vast empire, but such empires are impermanent. Everything is finished in course of time. All such positions of economic development, although created with great endeavor and hardship, are vanquished very soon. Therefore, they have been described as chala, flickering. An intelligent man should conclude that material economic development is not at all pleasing. But we don't get to this. Money is honey. So we can't understand this because we are conditioned. The entire world is described in Bhagavad Gita as Dukhalayam Shashvatam, miserable and temporary. Economic development may be pleasing for some time, but it cannot endure. Thus, many big businessmen are now very morose because they are being harassed by various plundering governments. In conclusion, why should one waste his time for so-called economic development, which is neither permanent nor pleasing? On the other hand, our relationship with Krishna is eternal. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. The pure souls are eternally in love with Krishna. And this permanent love, either as a servant, friend, parent, conjugal lover, is not at all difficult to revive. Prabhupada is saying not at all difficult. Especially in this age, the concession is that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one revives his original relationship with God and thus becomes so happy that he does not want anything material. See, look at this. By chanting, one has to come to the relation or situation of being so happy that he does not want anything material. You can imagine where we stand. As enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, na dhanam, na jhanam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamai. Very advanced devotee does not want riches, followers, or possessions. The satisfaction of possessing material opulences, although perhaps of a different standard, is available even in the lives of dogs and hogs who cannot revive their eternal relationship with Krishna. In human life, however, our eternal dormant relationship with Krishna is possible to revive. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj has described this life as arthadam. Arthadam, it is of value. Consequently, instead of wasting our time for economic development, which cannot give us any happiness, if we simply try to revive our eternal relationship with Krishna, we properly utilize our lives. Prabhupada is like completely just nullifying need for economic development. No need to waste time for economic development. Now, what should we do? Labho jiveta yavata. Bhagavatam first canto. Labho jiveta yavata. Jivasya tattva jignasa. Like labho jiveta yavata. What we should do? Just self-preservation. That's a very beautiful verse. Actually, let me chant that verse. Where is that? Yeah. Yeah. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayascha ye chetayete ranaviddham stitam sattve prasidati. No, not this. Uh, yeah, here. Dharmasvanuष्ठित पुंसान विश्वक्सेनुकतासु यः नोत्पादयद् यदि रतिं शवमेहि वै केवलम. So, discussion here is dharmasvanuष्ठित pumsam. Of human beings, the dharma, whatever their prescribed duty is, what is should be such that it should enable or provoke attraction for the message of the Lord, meaning it should give them taste for shravanam. Otherwise, such occupational duty is useless labor, number one. Number two, dharmasya hapavargasya narthorthaya upakल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय स्मृतः. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Now, what is the use of all these occupational engagements is actually moksha. So here in this verse, it's being said, nartho arthayopakalpate, not for material gain. So dharma should not be performed for material gain. Dharma should be performed for moksha. And narthasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. The goal of dharma should not be artha and kama. Even if there is artha, it should not be used for kama. And what should we do? Kama, what should be our life desire? Kamasya nendriya pritir, labho jiveta yavata. What is the kama? Na indriya priti, not sense gratification, but labho jiveta yavata. That should be our life desire. Just a healthy life, self-preservation. Why? What should we do with life? Jivasya tattva jignasa. Nartho yaschaya karma bhi. No other goal of one's work except tattva jignasa. Inquiry about the absolute truth. So clearly, first canto, second chapter, verses 6 through 10. He actually gives the conclusion of how we should live material life. But we would have read it long time back. We forgotten. How many more verses are there? 40. Okay, still there are. We'll stop here. Yeah. So any questions, comments? Mm, anything? All okay?
Yes, Raji.
Okay. Okay. There are no questions, then we'll conclude. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। कोटि वैष्णव की जय, समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। नमस्ते। प्रणाम क्षेत्र।
प्रणाम।
हरे